Yeah, first I wanted to actually clarify when I say like I'm not successful in interview, it's not because I'm shy. It's because I failed most of interviews. I think I failed about like 40 different interviews in Silicon Valley. It's really huge number. Even Google, I failed 3 times in Google.
Hey everyone, I'm starting a new series on my channel called Tech Tracks, where I have the opportunity to talk to really inspirational and unique people in the tech industry and how they got to where they are. And so for this very first Tech Track, I'm talking to my friend and colleague Igor, who has a really broad set of experiences in tech, including as an Android engineer, tech lead, and manager at some of the top companies in the world, including Facebook, Google, Snapchat, and Netflix. And the thing that I find fascinating about Igor is that he's not a child prodigy who has been programming and coding since age 5, and everything has been easy for him. You'll hear from him how he's failed a bunch of times. He started his professional career not as a programmer, but as an auto mechanic in Russia. He transitioned into tech. He spent a few years in South Korea, and then finally he ended up here in Silicon Valley in California. So I hope you enjoy our conversation, and I think there's a lot of lessons that we can learn from Igor's journey. So I thought we could just get started by maybe talking about where it all started in Russia, right? So maybe you can start talking about how you grew up. How does the education system work in Russia?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's actually very interesting. I think my childhood, I was in pretty poor family, and when we say about poor, it's not level of poor like in America. Poor, I would say we can afford going to McDonald's once a year. That kind of poor.
Mm.
So for me, the richest people in the world were people whose kids could spend their birthday in McDonald's. That's how I thought about the world that day.
So you're in Russia. The next step in the journey, it sounds like, is you spent some time in South Korea. So I'm wondering, how did that transition happen, and talk about your experience in South Korea.
Yeah, honestly, I liked everything in Motorola. It was everything perfect. We had great people there. We switched from waterfall and Six Sigma process into very fast, agile. I really liked how it went. We were delivering a lot of things. Like everyone liked me. My first business trip to America, I was very excited. And then Motorola decided to shut down most of offices around the world. That was, I think, 2000, end of 2009. And our office was obviously shut down as well.
Mm.
And I remember it all started from like cost cutting. They like started to remove like utensils, all the stuff from offices, and then like one day they say, okay, your office will not be there in 3 months, so please like find your next job, and we will pay you 6 months. But some people will be paid just 3 months, and they need to work the rest of 3 months. So I was working the last 3 months because I was kind of like knew a lot of parts of the team, so I was just transitioning all the knowledge to other offices in Motorola, and I started to go to a lot of interviews, and Motorola helped, like at least my manager helped to kind of send my interviews to different companies. And for some reason it ended up that the company that was mostly interested in me was Samsung Electronics from South Korea.
I want to fast forward a little bit. So you spent a few years at Netflix, right? And then I think you went to Google, and then you spent some time at Snapchat, and then you also, of course, have experience at Facebook. So clearly, you're doing something right. I mean, you mentioned that you're not good at interviews, but it seems like based on your track record, you're actually really, really good. So I mean, you figured something out, which is working. And I think for a lot of people watching, it would be a dream come true to work at any one of the companies that you've worked at. So can you talk about? You mentioned persistence earlier. Can you talk more about what has really worked for you in terms of interviewing?
Yeah, there are a lot of aspects of interviewing. I would say persistence is the most important, I think, especially in America. Honestly speaking, I feel to pass interview in America, persistent could be the most important quality because it's all predictable. In Russia, I went to many interviews and I always was not expecting what they will ask me. Sometimes they ask me like, okay, what's the difference between like templates and generics? And I knew both Java and C++, but not the first that comes to my mind to answer this question. I was starting to think about like different parts. And I remember the interviewer told me, you actually have 10 seconds. If you don't answer this question for 10 seconds, you're not senior engineer. And I thought, okay, that's something I was not expecting in the interview. So that kind of questions were like just like kidding me. Like sometimes they come with some crazy thing about like assembler or some other stuff. In America, it's all pretty, at least in Silicon Valley, it's all pretty expected. Like there is cracking the coding interview book, which is like the Bible of interviewing. So every time I had new rounds of interviewing in my life, I was always reading this book from the beginning to end. That's kind of the basement. It tells what to expect there, what are potential rounds, because usually there are three most important things to kind of beat an interview. First one is cultural fit. Not all companies do this, but in many companies, they at least try to find out if you're good culture fit. So I recommend watching some CEO videos about this, of that particular company, because usually CEOs, people who share about their mission, about their values of the companies, and they probably expect every candidate to share the same vision or mission, especially like companies that are successful, for example, like Netflix. If you don't have Netflix account, if you don't like Netflix, if you don't use Netflix, I don't think you will ever be able to get offer from them. One of the questions they can ask, like, what do you think you want to improve in Netflix? What things are going well, what not? And they really want people who are passionate about the company. And I think most of successful companies are like this. They realize like they can't attract best of you by just money. It's impossible. Like everyone can overbid in terms of money. They want to attract full of you. They want to attract your passion, your time, your kind of desire to learn all this stuff.
And is that something that you think is unique to Silicon Valley and in this area, or did you find that in Russia or Korea or other places that you might have interviewed?
Good point. Yeah, I think you're right. I think this is pretty unique. First of all, like the level of success, I think there's like the most successful companies in IT world are in Silicon Valley, especially the headquarters. And probably this one. And also like, I think this is a kind of new generation, like new trend of companies like Airbnb, Uber, Lyft. They all kind of were born relatively new. And I think this is kind of new wave when people think we should make the world a better place. We need people who are passionate about improving themselves, improving the company, the world. And they realize that if they need people who just execute, they just outsource that part, right? But they can't outsource something that is really about like passion driving something. So yeah, you're right. I think this kind of probably Silicon Valley and maybe a few other places in the world where the more successful companies have their headquarters and want people to actually help them to grow and move somewhere.
Yeah, that makes sense. So that's it sounds like that's actually a big part of your interview process as well. Like you said, that's the first thing that they actually trying to look for is culture. And so you were mentioning a couple others as well.
Yeah, so like soft skill, like even when there's like ice breaking in most of interviews, I think if interview is pretty good, he or she shouldn't start from just like, okay, let's jump in the questions. There's an important part of American culture is about ice breaking. So it's a lot about finding each other, like connection, what are similarities in people, like hobbies or something. And this important part, that's actually, I think cracking the coding interview basically asks about this round or this part of interviews. Do I want to have a beer with this person, right? Is there anything in common that we just enjoy? Because going to work, and especially after COVID, right, it's a lot of communication with people. And people want to hire people they like to work with. So I would say all the parts of interview is important. When you speak with HR, when you speak first like 5-10 minutes with the person, it could sound it's not technical, but it's all about fit. Cultural fit, personal fit, your mission, your values. So that's one very important part. Second part is about resolving the coding questions, basically. And yeah, cracking the coding interview had, I think, like 100 questions. I solve them every time I prepare for interviews. So overall, I think I solved all of them maybe 9 or 10 times in my life. I always forget the best solution. So I write by myself and then double check that it was the most optimal solution or not. And there are really good websites like LeetCode. I like also interviewbeat.com, which is free. And there are many sites that you can just train. I think this is important. Like if you want to pass coding interview, you need to train, because most of the tasks it's really hard to meet such kind of tasks in the real kind of work environment. They're very specific. The problems are kind of focused on particular kind of hack or particular kind of interesting idea that I think maybe there are a few inventors in the world that can easily get this idea, but most of people, I think, or at least like people like me, they need definitely know these ideas and learn and work hard to actually solve these kind of tasks, understand what the best algorithm, what the best data structure for this particular problem and all this stuff. And the third part is only if you go into like senior positions, it's about architecture. But senior position starts from, in some companies, this entry level. For example, Netflix never hires non-senior people. So if you want to go to Netflix, you should definitely pass architecture round as well. And architecture round, I think this is much more applicable to real world. They want to see how this good scalable design you can build. How can you see the high level picture of the problem? Usually you don't write any code there. You just like say about like, okay, there's my UML diagram. This is how different components will interact with each other. There is how I will solve this particular issue. They also expect you from to have a lot of like clarification questions, to focus on particular problems, get all the requirements. You probably can find a lot of preparation for architecture round of interview in the internet. But I think this is three main aspects. Yeah, first I want to actually clarify, when I say like I'm not successful in interview, it's not because I'm shy. It's because I failed most of the interviews. I think I failed about like 40 different interviews in Silicon Valley. It's really huge number. Even Google, I failed 3 times in Google. And it's important also to remember that if you fail interview, it's just like that time was, you didn't say good things, expectations were too high, you didn't know this area or something like this. It just doesn't mean that there is not good fit between you and the company, as we discussed, right? It just means that particular day you failed, or company failed to evaluate you good. So it shouldn't be a signal for you, okay, I give up on this company. It shouldn't be just signal of you what you did wrong. And I was always like keeping notes for myself, okay, what I can do better next time I interview to the same company, the same interviewers for the same tasks. I think that's very important. So yeah, persistence.
So how was your experience at Snapchat?
Yeah, Snapchat was also very unique kind of culture. It was, I would say, if Google was kind of family, a little bit slow family, but family. Netflix was professional football team. Snapchat was chaos that time. That's what I felt. Like within 1 year, I was working there. I think I was working 1 year, 1 month. Many engineers that I knew left. I think most of the engineers I knew left. My director was fired. My manager was fired. So many things happened within 1 year, compared to Google, where nothing was happening within the same 1 year. It's kind of also, it was very unique environment, but I was also not sure what will happen next. And stock also plumbed down 3x. Stock is kind of big part of the compensation, more than your base salary in Silicon Valley. So everything was telling me that we don't know what will be in future. And that reminded me like my startup days, when I also don't know like will this startup exist or not. And that made me a little bit more open to accept calls. I also was not searching, but I remember also like another recruiter approached me, and Facebook was a company that already failed one time, and they approached me at that time, and okay, I decided I will try again. So it was just another kind of opportunity that I was a little bit like nervous. What will I get next year in this company? Will I be fired? Will my new manager be fired? Will be the whole stock and company disappear? So I think that biggest problem. And also, I think, honestly speaking, there was also not sure that our team was respected. Like I was driving the whole playback and navigation framework team, and I didn't feel that the amount of respect and importance in the company was correlated with the amount of technical challenges and importance for the real product. Right. I think that was also the problem. We had troubles to get like headcount, all the stuff for our team, and that also kind of led my. And I also remember, like I remember I was interviewing at WhatsApp. It was 2013, I think, and Brian Acton, one of the founders of startup of WhatsApp, I remember I asked him, what will you advise to yourself when you are like my age? And he told, actually, don't stay in the company when it's going down. And he was basically talking about his experience in Yahoo. He was in Yahoo for a very long time. And looking back from his like a mature age, he realized that a lot of years we just lost. He was just sitting in comfort zone and not learning new things. And that's what was probably the biggest, I think, driver. I think there are like three probably things that you should think when you think leave or not leave. First, do you enjoy your daily work? Like, is it something that you wake up and think, okay, today is Monday, I'm so happy. Maybe I'm exaggerated. You don't need to be so happy, but at least you should have something excited going for that week. If I realize, okay, this is Monday again, my team is not respected, I need to do triage bugs and no one is interested in this and all this stuff, and it's just Monday, then we'll be Tuesday, Wednesday. This is like first factor. I was probably not excited anymore and I didn't feel much respect, all this stuff. So enjoying work, I think, is very important correlation. And I would never be very successful in the company that I'm not enjoying much working in. I think second part is, do I learn new things, right? It's very important to ask yourself question like, am I becoming a better person, better engineer, better manager, or anyone you are in this company? Like, if you just sit in comfort zone, you're doing good job, you have good salary, but you're not growing, that probably means that could be not the right thing. So if you don't enjoy and you don't grow, that's the question, like maybe you should find other opportunity. And I think that's an important thing to realize. And also third thing is like, think about future, like in 5 years, for example, what's your goal to be in 5 years? Mm-hmm. Do you follow that kind of path you have during these 5 years? And in Snapchat, that was a good example that I couldn't have any path. Like everything was just like, people are leaving, people are fired. I couldn't make my path because there were so many external circumstances. So that's what made me open to actually consider other opportunities.
What else do you want to share? Any advice or thoughts that you want to leave with the folks watching?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I think first advice that I thought about is never focus on money. I think that's very important, and that's a mistake that I did for years. I said, like my first salary was $280 a month. And I thought, okay, $280 a month is like $3,000 a year, that kind of salary I had. And I thought, okay, when I will get $500 a month, I would be happy. So my correlation of happiness in this world was completely built on top of my kind of compensation. And yeah, when I got checked, it happened maybe within like 6 months. I got $500, a kind of notice of salary increase in the letter. I was really happy, but my happiness lasts. How do you think how long it lasts?
Probably it wears off after maybe a couple of weeks, right?
No, it actually lasted like 10 seconds. After 10 seconds, I realized, okay, I'm actually $500 a month I'm earning, right? Like pretty good. Okay, what's next?
Yeah.
Right. So I think there should be something much bigger than like your compensation and your success. Even like your title is not important. Whether you find this to be like spiritual person, whether you try to make the world a better place, where you help other people to grow and learn. For example, like what you're doing now, I think is fantastic. Like you graduated from Stanford and now you try to like use everything Stanford allowed you to reach in this life to share this with people there, right? That's amazing. Like I think we can get much more satisfaction in this life, not from money, but from doing the right things, doing the good things. Yes. At the end of the day, that's the only thing that will be left after we will all die. Like our money will not follow us. So I think that's a very important mistake. And I think my salary was like $750, like $1,000 a month. And I was always expecting next. It was always like, it went from 10 seconds to even maybe 2 seconds of happiness after like new salary increase. So I started to realize, yeah, I need to find some true passions. And like, if, for example, this interview will be useful for at least anyone, and someone will leave the comment and say like, oh, that was actually, I knew something new for me and it was useful, I will get much more satisfaction that next salary increase. It will last much more than 2 seconds for sure. So I think please don't follow my mistake. Don't think about money as the biggest motivator in like your decisions about the life. That I think is important for me. Another thing I want to share is about the believe in yourself. I think there are a lot of books that all Americans read when they are young, like Napoleon Hill, like Dale Carnegie, Stephen Covey, and only after I came in America, I realized, okay, I need to learn what actually people learn here. And for example, Napoleon Hill, like the Think and Grow Rich, I think that book is like mind blowing for me, because it basically, like, the idea of this book is very easy. You build your own reality. You will live in that reality that you build by yourself. And first, you need to build this in your dreams. So start with your dreams. Think what you want to do in this world, whom you want to be. And especially in America, like, I feel like there is not much corruptions, not much limitations in America. You basically can achieve whatever you build in your dreams if you persistently follow steps to achieve this dream. So I think it's very important to, as like I was young, like, oh, I probably will never work in Google, or I will never work in like big company. And you see, like, one day I realized, oh, actually I can work there. I started to interview, I failed, but my dream was to work there and try and see. So I achieved this at the end of the day. And I think this is very important to realize that there is no limits. Limits is only your beliefs and your dreams. Once you believe in something, you have dreams, and you persistently following the steps there, then I think it's important, and you will definitely achieve. So don't limit your dreams. That's the biggest limitation factor in this world, especially in countries that provide these opportunities to achieve anything you can do.
Yeah, and I feel like I'll add my own quick thought there. I feel like you got inspired by this book, which is amazing, and that opened up your eyes to what is possible. I think for me, surrounding yourself with people who elevate your ambition, right? That I think has been really important. Like, if they can do it, or if they have ambition, I can do it. And so if you're not around people like that, find other people to be around, right? So I feel like that's like what you said, being able to dream big and think big, that's so important. And whether it's through a book or the people around you, that's critical.
Yeah, that's actually a very good point. I think this is the biggest point that blew me away on my first business trip to America. Honestly speaking, in Russia, like, all our government or like kind of mass media creates pretty like bad kind of impression about Americans, that like fake smiles, they don't care when they ask, they don't care about you when they ask, how are you, all this stuff. So I was not expecting much from Americans. I thought like this is just a successful country in terms of economics, but people are not very good. And my business trip there, I think there were a few stories, but one story that's really like, I will never probably forget. I came to some island. I really was interested in deers. I like nature, all this stuff. And I read on the internet there are deers in this particular small island. It was like Washington State, near Seattle. And I traveled there, and I saw the woman who was staying on the lake and just maybe enjoying the lake view or something like this. And I asked, like, and imagine like the woman, maybe she was like in her 50s or 60s, enjoying the lake, and then some weird person with like Russian accent, very direct, immature approach, and asked like, oh, I'm sorry, do you know where can I find deers? And now I realize it all sounds very crazy, but her approach to me, her attitude to me was unique. I think I never experienced this before. She actually answered my question the way that she was staying there and waiting for this question. And she spent, I think, 15 minutes with me trying to find deers. We finally found some rabbits, but she was really trying to help from her heart. And this is important to realize, that there are many people, I think it's in many countries, but especially in America, where I think many people don't need to care about like earning enough money to eat some food, all this stuff. A lot of people just want to do the good things. And as you mentioned, like, if you want to be successful, the easiest thing is just approach successful people and ask like, oh, can you share me, like, can you give me some advice? Can you share me what made you successful? And it's surprisingly how many people actually do this. The people really help to each other. And the level of actually, as you mentioned also, the language, like the language in America is very informal. You just say you, right? You, and that's all. It could be your best friend, or it could be your just stranger that you just met on the street. And that provides a lot of opportunities, very powerful, that you are on the same almost language with a stranger as you are with your family member. And that breaks a lot of walls. So like approaching people on the street in America is very normal. Asking them anything, like maybe don't ask to be friends from the very beginning, but you can ask advices and everything, and they will spend time. And several times during this first business trip, I found like people ready to invest their time just to help me. to weird stranger with weird accent. They will probably never meet in their entire life. They just want to help. And I think that's very powerful. And in addition to people, especially if you are outside of America and you want to go there, I do recommend books. There are a lot of books that will help you understand the culture, the people. It's not about just interviews. It's also about understanding like how to be successful. And there are amazing authors that I already mentioned, like Stephen Covey, like Dale Carnegie. If you think about leadership, like John Maxwell is amazing. There are so many amazing books that I actually really enjoy reading, and they give me a lot of realizations about this country, what is driving those people. And think about people that they're good. Like if you think that, oh, people around me are corrupted, they're bad, you will live in this kind of environment. But if you just think about people that they're positive, they want to help, they want to make the world a better place, you will surround yourself with such people and you will end up in such environment.
This is really, I'm inspired, Igor. I think you've inspired a lot of people who are watching. If people want to learn more about you, where can they, I'll leave links in the description for this video. Where can people learn more about your journey and your path?
Yeah, actually, many people approach me on LinkedIn. They ask me like advices, ask me to recommend them, give contacts, everything. And I'm always happy to help. So I would say LinkedIn is the easiest way to approach me. I'm checking every day, and yeah, I'm happy if I can help anyone in this world. I think I did something good.